yes, I know there's a lot of you that go, I have a goal. I know I can achieve it. It's not a push goal. It's just, I know I can achieve it. And I pretty much know how my business works. I'm just going to continue to show up and do that. And that's like a healthy person saying, I know how to be healthy. I know how to eat well. I know what kind of exercise I need. And they run through life this way until other outside influences stop them from being able to do their normal routine. Maybe they injure their knee, or maybe there's something in their world that stops them from having that normal. Maybe they get a job that doesn't allow them to eat the way they've been eating because they have these weird hours they're working now, and they don't realize it until they're out of shape, until all of a sudden things aren't working the same way before, and they're like, how did I get here? Welcome back to Life at 10 Tenths, where we inspire you to live at the pinnacle of your ability and purpose. I've got Matt Benelli with me as always. Sir, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, my friend. I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing amazing today. It is, I can't see more than about 2 feet outside my window because of the fog, but it is, I like mornings like this. These are great mornings. These are the mornings I like to go for walks in, just kind of go out to quiet, and the fog kind of settles everything down. But before we get going off on all this crazy stuff, hey, business planning is still upon you right now, everybody. If you have not gone and checked out the business planning that we have, go check it out. If you're listening to this right now and you're like, Garrett, I did your business planning. I'm in it, but I haven't finished my business plan yet. It's okay. Get it done. You got some time left still. We're right in the middle of December as you're listening to this. You've got time to get this done. And then when you get it done, you get to join us in our quarterly masterminds that we're going to be kicking them off in January. And all you got to do is turn in a handful of pages of your business plan to us. You'll find it in the community when you sign up. You'll know exactly what pages to turn in, and that will get you into that group. And we're going to take a group with us that is committed to the year. That leads into what we're going to talk about today, Matt, because our business plan, which is unique to our business plan, I've never found it in any other business planning, turns your calendar into your business plan when you're all said and done. If you do it right, you are set up with your plan built into your calendar, ready to go. So all you got to do is show up. Which, Matt, this brings up an interesting topic, because you and I were talking this morning about calendars and where we see people break down with calendars and where we think that we kind of set ourselves up, or maybe we use excuses in our world around calendars. And this opened up a conversation that we're like, and we should do a podcast around this because, it is one of those areas that I find, Matt, when we realize why somebody is showing up or why they're not, almost always it'll come back to a broken calendar or a very effective calendar. And there's a lot of energy around this. That's what got us here.
Yeah, there is. And I think you said it with your calendar becomes your business plan. And we've had a few people say, well, when are you just going to tell me what to do? Right? Where is the thing of just like, tell me how I go forth and execute on this? And it's, well, however you take your goals and you break those things down into actions and standards, like that's got to get into your calendar in some form or fashion. Otherwise, then you just have a sheet of paper that says, here's my business plan, but the execution sometimes doesn't happen. And we'll hear people say, Garrett, like, well, but like, I know what I'm doing. Like, I got my routine, I got my thing. Like, it doesn't need to be on the calendar. However, and there are unicorns out there, right? You know, there are some people who are able to do and operate in that way. However, most people, and particularly when you get into the echelon of people that you would consider as successful, they have a detailed calendar. They know what they're doing, when they're doing it, where they're doing it, for how long, with whom, and also the other specifics that are around it. And this is where some people miss. And I want to talk about with you, Garrett, like there's a fear here. It's not like, oh, I forgot to put it on my calendar. There's this non-conscious conversation that we have. And some people may not like this because we're going to be calling you out a little bit, but we wouldn't do that without calling ourselves out, because we do this too. Like I've done this, I still do this. And it's a tough conversation to have with myself sometimes when I go, come on, Matt, like you got to step up, man. Like this, the only person at fault here for not getting this done is you. There's nothing else that is getting in the way. It is you, it is your choices, it is your decisions, it is your lack of committing to something to say, this is the direction that I'm going to go. And it comes down to how we put things on our calendar, Garrett.
You know, it's interesting. I watch people with their calendars. I'm looking at my calendar right now. But I watch people with their calendars is that they, I'll ask them a lot of times, you know, when they didn't show up for something. First question I always ask them is, was it on your calendar? And the answer I always hope to hear is no, it wasn't. Because if no, it wasn't on the calendar, that's something we can have a discussion about and be like, okay, well, let's figure out why it would be important enough to put it on your calendar. And I truly believe if you can't decide why it's important enough to go on your calendar or why it's important enough for you to show up for, that's actually the words I wanted to say. If you can't figure out why it's important enough to show up for, that it's something you want to commit to, don't give it space on your calendar. Because that will lead to the next part, which is when I ask somebody, was it on your calendar? And they say, yes, that's a problem. If it is on your calendar all the time and you're choosing not to show up for it, you have a very bad habit that you've created. It is right up there with picking your nose in public. It is one of those things that when you find yourself doing it, you got to realize, you like that, Matt? I lost Matt. But it's one of those things that when you create that okay in your calendar, you've lost all control of it. Because what you now have is that I'm taking this thing that literally maps out every hour that I have in my day to be successful, to get to what I want to do, be the person I want to be, show up the way that I want to be. But everything on here is like, meh, if I get to it. And I had to come to a belief a long time ago, or kind of a rule for myself, Matt, that if it gets time on my calendar, it's because I've committed to it and I'm showing up for it. If there's even an ounce of I'm not sure I'm going to make it, it gets canceled and gets taken off until I can decide that it's important enough to put it back on there. Yeah. And sometimes there's some really tough decisions you got to have and conversations you got to have with yourself when you're like, but I have the gym on there for every 2 days throughout the week. Maybe it's a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I've got the gym on there. And if I take it off, I won't go. You're not going right now. Like, nothing's going to change with you taking it off until you take ownership of it and you put it on your calendar. You're going to make the decision, which Matt, you said, which I really like, and I want you to go back to, which is, there is a level there that once it's on your calendar, it becomes much more personal, that when you choose not to do it, you can be really hard on yourself. So maybe it's just safer not putting it on. Maybe I won't have to have that tough conversation. And I want to kind of unbox a little bit, because I think that's what stops a lot of people from building a calendar about, is that now you're accountable to yourself. You got to show up.
That's the biggest thing. I think, in whether or not you know this, like that, hey, you're avoiding it because of this or not, this is a big reason why people don't take a business plan and put proactive activities on the calendar, because they don't want the responsibility to do it. Because if it's not on there and it doesn't happen, there's usually something that'll come up. There will be an excuse. There's something else that we can point to say, well, I don't have time to do my calls because I have this with my family. I got this client came up, or this thing happened. And the truth is you need to take ownership. Otherwise, you're not going to get to your goals. Like, do you want to look backwards and say, yeah, I never hit my goals, but it's because of all this stuff? Or do you want to look backwards and say, I hit my goals because I took ownership? The challenge here is sometimes you'll have to look backwards and say, I didn't hit my goals and it's my fault.
Yep.
And we don't want to put that pressure on ourselves sometimes. I mean, I know for myself, like, I have not put things on my calendar because I'm like, if I put it on my calendar and I don't do it, I'm going to have a really hard conversation with myself, and I might make myself feel bad. And I don't want to do that. So I'm just not going to put it on the calendar. I'm going to let something else override it. And this is prevalent in real estate sales and in all sales businesses, because there are these unexpected things like, but what if this? I can't fill up my entire calendars. Yeah, well, I get that. That's why we can create flex spaces and things like this. But the things that that will help propel you to your goal, that stuff must be on the calendar, and it needs to have some level of specificity. Otherwise, it's going to be really hard to show up, because like you said, Garrett, if it's on the calendar and we don't show up, a lot of times it's because it's vague enough to allow us to avoid it without putting pressure on ourselves as to why. It's like, well, it was just my call block. I can do that at another time. And I made some calls while I was driving, so I'm good. Whereas if your call block actually has, no, these are my customer service calls and I need to call these 5 people, now it's not as easy to avoid that. And this is where it gets into self-responsibility, and we have to kind of step up to the plate and say, I'm going to take full responsibility for my calendar. I'm going to take full responsibility for my goals, no matter what else is there. And if I do have a busy life and all these other things that are there, I am going to figure out how to control my calendar and adjust the things so that everything can harmonize together. Because Garrett, the last thing that I see people do is that they'll say, well, and I had this conversation with somebody the other day, actually. It's just like, well, I just have all these other things in my life that are busy. And I'm like, great, get those on the calendar first then. And it's like, well, but then I don't have enough time for these other things. It's like, but you're saying that these things are important to get to your goal. And it's like, yeah. It's like, well, then you have to at some point acknowledge that maybe you have too many things on your plate and you need to figure out what you're going to remove or what you're going to adjust so that you can find the right path to your goal, so that everything works in harmony instead of just using the excuse, I have too much, because that's not going to get you to where you want to go. So we have to figure it out. And the calendar is the only way we can actually bring into our reality of here's all the things so we can acknowledge them and make the appropriate adjustments.
Well, Matt, and this is why in business planning we do the stress test. And because, yes, you're going to build out this calendar. You're going to take a look at it from an outside, looking down on it like a little laboratory and going, okay, when we apply stress, when we apply chaos into this business plan, can it handle what I'm trying to do and where I'm trying to go? And I think bringing this back into the goal side of it, we watch people all the time, Matt, that when we start writing goals down, their brain starts analyzing the life that the calendar I currently have right now. To do that goal means I have to be better than I was before, and I'm not willing to work any harder. I'm not willing to stress myself out anymore. I was working about as hard as I want to work last year. Last year, let's say I made $300,000, and I know I want to set a goal for 400 or 500 because it would really make a difference in our life and our lifestyle and the things we get to do, but I don't want to work that hard to get there. The interesting thing is that when you start to break down, what does it really take to create that goal? A lot of it is just consistency with the right things. And this is what a calendar is designed to help you do, is to say, okay, how much do I need to be doing? And how can I set myself up to be consistent with it? And you might make a calendar that you're like, see, I knew this wouldn't work. I did the calendar and this is a nightmare. This week completely blew up. And anytime that happens in our life, you can either be a kid and go, I knew I sucked at this. I'm not doing this anymore, and I'm walking away. I knew I wasn't good at baseball. My mom wants me to play baseball. I knew I wasn't good at it. You can be that, or you can go, what maybe do I not know that I can improve upon here right now? What have I done here that made this not turn out? You can do this I just had a great conversation with Mike Weiss. Mike Weiss is a gentleman in our community. He's in New York City. He's a real estate agent there. And Mike has a little side project where he's making, I'm going to butcher this. He's going to be like, dude, you could have explained it better, but it's kind of in the moment, Mike. So give me a break. He's making bread, like pretzel bread is what he's making. And
delicious.
And I was asking him, like, how is that going? What's going on? He goes, well, this thing's turning out pretty good. But this one over here, he goes, every single time I make it, the taste is right, but it just doesn't look right. It looks ugly. It just blows up all over the place. It's just not forming right. And so we had a conversation of well, how can you learn what might be going wrong? And he was going by just trial and error, keep going, keep going, keep going. And of course I said, turn to AI, tell it what the problem is, figure it out. And he said it came back to me with 3 solutions of how I could approach this differently to get the results that I want. And he sent me a photo of he goes, it worked. It actually, I got it working. And I was like, that's so cool. Okay, so I love using AI for that type of stuff. But it's interesting is what Mike wasn't doing is saying, I just give up. But he was just trying almost the same thing over and over again, trying to get different results. And I think with a calendar, that's what you got to look at and go, yeah, you may have had a bad experience with calendar in the past. It may not have been something that's effective for you. There are tricks. There are things to make your calendar work. There's different levels of understanding of the appointments that you put on there and how you want to show up. And then when it comes to a really effective calendar, there might be a lot of things you take off because you think it's an important factor of getting you to your goals. And in reality, it's just like, well, I just had that on there because that's what other agents in my office are doing. And I just felt that that was important. I had an agent in Seattle years ago where he was like, I can't fit all this in. I said, what takes the most time in your calendar right now? And he goes, well, I have 3 brokers tours I need to go on Tuesday, one on Wednesday, and one on Thursday. I'm like, you spend 3 days out of every week going on broker's tour? Like 3 days out of every week, just looking at the market, driving around town all over the place. Oh my gosh. Okay. So let's really figure out, is that just what realtors do? Or is it really effective of getting you where you need to go? And these are the conversations you need to start asking, because you're a business owner. Everybody listening to this right now, you are self-employed business owner. That's our main audience out here. And you are the one that gets to determine what you're going to be doing with your days. You're the one who gets to schedule this out. And you've got some great goals in front of you. And a lot of these goals are able to be accomplished and able to be put together. Your calendar has to reflect it, though. And I'm going to say one more thing, Matt, before I turn it back over to you here, is that, yes, I know there's a lot of you that go, I have a goal. I know I can achieve it. It's not a push goal. It's just, I know I can achieve it. And I pretty much know how my business works. I'm just going to continue to show up and do that. And that's like a healthy person saying, I know how to be healthy. I know how to eat well. I know what kind of exercise I need. And they run through life this way until other outside influences stop them from being able to do their normal routine. Maybe they injure their knee, or maybe there's something in their world that stops them from having that normal. Maybe they get a job that doesn't allow them to eat the way they've been eating because they have these weird hours they're working now, and they don't realize it until they're out of shape, until all of a sudden things aren't working the same way before. And they're like, how did I get here? Well, you got here because you never had a good plan. You were just kind of being lucky. That's the unicorn you talked about earlier. I said, sometimes there's a unicorn. Unicorns don't last forever. That is something that you can go for a while and be like, how do they do it? If it's not a good, solid plan behind it, at some point it's like, oh, yeah, it lasted that long. And now all of a sudden they're not getting the results they want.
I'm glad
I
you
went
brought
on
up the
tangent there. Sorry.
No, you don't want to go there. And I'm glad you brought up like the things like broker tour, because I think people will put things on their calendar to have the excuse of why I cannot do something else.
Yes.
And this all comes back to being able to face this fear that likely exists, which is either a fear of success of, well, I don't know what I'm going to do when I get that busy. I know this will work, but I have a fear of it taking control of my life. I have a fear of, or maybe it's a limiting belief around people who have that level of success. They don't spend time with their family or something for some reason. And so we have to, one, acknowledge that fear of success that might be there, but also the fear of failure and self-responsibility that I think is inherent in this that we don't like to talk about. Yeah. We don't like to talk about because particularly in today's society, like there's so much of this, it's their fault. This person did this. And, I was reading this segment out of the Motivation Manifesto by Brennan Bouchard for our Win the Morning this past week, as of the time that we're recording this, not when this goes out. And in there, it was talking about how we get to choose our emotion. We get to choose happiness. We get to choose to show up with gratitude and ask ourselves, what are we contributing to this environment? Whereas today, most people will walk into an environment and be like, why is this place not making me feel happy? Why is this environment not making me feel good? I'm pulling all of this negative stuff from this environment. And it's like, hold on, we need to stop and quit blaming the environment for our results and take on this responsibility. And the best way to do that is to just be honest with our calendar and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to commit to this. And I might fail. And you know what? You will. There will be days that don't work out. In fact, like you said, Garrett, the first time you set up that calendar, it may all go to crap. Like it may just be terrible the first run through, and you learn from that so that you can make some adjustments to make it work. Cause I get it. Like a lot of people, particularly coming up to the beginning of the year, Garrett, right? Everyone's gonna be like, you know what? We got 75 hard starting. We're going to have a group that kicks off of that. There's going to be people like, I'm going to block my whole calendar. I'm going to do this workout here and this here. It's going to be so amazing. And then day one's going to be like, oh shit, this is hard. I didn't figure out how to do this. Like this is just going to totally just crush me. And great.
Yep.
That allows you to then figure it out.
Yeah.
Allow yourself to be crushed a little bit so that you can make the adjustments necessary, because that helps you then figure out the specificity of like, oh, I actually didn't need 2 hours of calls. I needed to have 1 hour of calling these specific people. And that's what's going to grow my business.
So I look at this, Matt, as like, you know, when we go racing and you put a car on the track, like you make all these adjustments, you do all these things and you take it out there. And there are times when you get out there and you're like, whoa. What did we do? Okay, so prime example. We were racing here a couple races back, and this old racer comes up, and he looks inside our engine compartment, and he kind of laughs. And I said, "What are you laughing at?" He goes, "You guys still have your sway bar connected?" And every bit of me is like, yeah, of course we still have our sway bar connected. And so sway bar, everybody, so they understand, like when you go through a corner and the car leans, what it does is it actually pushes down on the wheel that is got the most force on it. So basically it uses the suspension on the other side to create equal force down, which makes the car not roll back and forth. It makes it not sway. It's in the word. It's in the bar. So what's interesting is we're like, what do you mean detach the sway bar? And he says, unhook it. Get that thing unhooked from either side. Let your front wheels kind of move and flow. And us as a team had to sit down and go, are we really going to do this? Like every bit of us goes, this is a really bad idea. But the old racer said what's going to happen is that because your wheels aren't so locked together, when you come out of a corner and the car is leaning, it will allow that other tire that you're spinning right now, because you don't have traction on it, to lay down on the track, and you'll actually get traction and go. And so we did it. We all as a team, we unhooked it. We tied it up with zip ties, which is not what you want to do, but that's sometimes zip ties will save the world. And we went out on the track, and we each took it for a drive on the track, you know, during the race. And we all came back and said, what did you experience? And we all came back and said, there are sections of the track that are really hairy, like the S turns and things like that. Like the car's just kind of like walking around. But we all agreed it's a hell of a lot faster. Like this thing is hooking up in a way that it has never hooked up since we've been out racing. And this last week, I texted the entire team and I said, are you guys okay if I take the entire sway bar off? I'm just going to eliminate the weight, and it's now laying on the garage floor. These are the ways you test. These are the ways you make adjustments in a calendar, let's say, and you go out and you test it. You put it out there for a couple weeks and you go, is this insane? Is this working, or is this something that actually is running more efficient and is actually allowing me to get to my goals again? And sometimes if I was to talk to 90% of the people out there and I said, I'm thinking about taking the sway bar off, they'd be like, that's a really bad idea. Just like 5 guys sitting in the pits was like, I'm not sure this is a great thing to do. We had to go test it, and then we got to make decisions about it. And I think a lot of people, Matt, as you brought up with making a calendar, is that you never have to have those hard conversations. You never have to have that point of like, I wish we didn't do that. And that, you know, maybe that we lost some laps. Maybe we're now not first place. Maybe we've dropped back in this pack of racers because we did this. But you never learn unless you go out there and you try it and you make some mistakes. And the calendars are one of those things you really have to use it as a living thing as you're working with it, and understand that there might be weeks that, you know, we talk about adding in 20% chaos. there might be weeks that 50% chaos comes in, and you can be like, see, I knew this calendar didn't work. And you need to stop and ask yourself, was this a normal week? Like, did something odd or weird happen that was a whole different level of stress that came in? And if the answer is yes, it's like, well, let's not reevaluate it right now, whether it worked or not. We might have undone the sway bar, and it might have been on a day that all of a sudden when we did it, it started to rain. And we might have all looked at each other and go, did we get a real test out of this, or were there factors that maybe we really weren't able to see what it was able to do and how it affected us? You have to be able to understand that about your business and your calendar as you move forward. But all of us, we've talked about this, Matt, we only have 168 hours. You have 168, I have 168, everybody listen to this. We have 168 hours every single week. And we waste a lot of that time because we aren't scheduled. We waste a lot of time doing stupid stuff. You all know what I'm talking about. All of you listening out there right now, you're like, I don't do that. Yes, you do. You just look back at yesterday and go, where did I just blow hours of time on things that have no benefit in who I want to be and where I want to go? And this is where you get to start to have some real conversations with yourself. But I love my calendar, Matt. I love being able to look at that and knowing exactly where I'm going to be, exactly what I'm going to be doing, and then also being able to go, and this is why I'm going to have the results I'm going to have this year. I know I'm going to get there, and that's a powerful place to be in.
I love full days, and I think when you take ownership of your calendar and you really, really dive in and be like, okay, I am going to be the person responsible for my results. You get to learn and make rules too. Like, this is the best part, because people will say, well, what if my calendar doesn't work? Great. You learn something, make a rule, because you go through seasons in life. You go through seasons throughout the year. There's different months and different weeks where your schedule is going to look different, right? Particularly if you have kids, right? So use rules to help you out. It's like, well, when this comes up, my rule is this, or this is how I say no, or this is how I say yes. And when you take responsibility, you can create those rules. If you don't take responsibility, then the rules are created for you by everybody else, and you get stuck in this. And raise your hand if this is you, that all of a sudden you are committed to these things. You're like, why did I say yes to all this stuff? And probably the reason why you said yes is because it was open on your calendar. You're like, yeah, I can do that. And then all of a sudden you're like, I don't want to do that. But now you're committed, and now you're spending time thinking, how do I get out of this? How do I say no? And we don't recognize the drag on opportunity that all of that thought process has, how it affects your energy. Because if you're disciplined with your calendar, you're going to have more freedom than you've ever experienced before.
Yep.
When my calendar gets loose, when I don't have things on there, I get stressed in this weird way. Not stressed in like, oh my gosh, I have so much going on. I go, oh my gosh, I'm being run by everybody else. I'm being run by the demands of the household. I'm being run by the demands of my clients, the demands of the email, the demands of my friends. And I don't mean like, significant things. Of course, like there are things that will come up that we handle, but it's the little things where it's like, if I hadn't planned my time, and this is, remember we did the episode on unspoken expectations. Mm-hmm. This is where it interferes with your relationships then too, because when you leave your calendar empty, but you want to do something, now you have unspoken expectations with yourself and the people around you. And this is where relationships can get hairy too, because all of a sudden you get asked to do something, maybe by a spouse, and it's free on your calendar, but you're like, oh no, I was going to do this. It's like, you didn't make the commitment.
Okay, so really important here that you said this, because how many people listening to this right now have a spouse that thinks because you are in this business of real estate that you've got all this free time, that if it's not scheduled or if you don't have an appointment, you got to go, well, you just have free time in your day. So it's like, hey, do you have any free time later today? Well, my schedule's kind of open later. Great. I need you to go take care of all these things for the household right now. And the amount of coaching clients I've had come to me going like, my family doesn't seem to understand that I actually have a job that I need to go do, and I have things that I need to show up for. And yeah, I'm supposed to write handwritten notes and make phone calls later today and maybe present market impact reports. And maybe not present them, maybe it's just make them. But I'm not meeting with any clients. So all of a sudden, like, my time's free. And that happens so fast. And I get it all the time, especially when family comes in from out of town. That usually, like during the holidays here right now, the amount of coaching clients, Matt, that will be on a call and they're like, my schedule blew up this week. I'm like, well, how did that happen? Well, my sister's in town and for some reason she doesn't think I work. And I'm like, well, did you set up an environment that makes it look like you don't work? Or is she just assuming that realtors don't work? Because I guarantee it, there's an outside perception that she's looking at and going like, well, you've got all this free time in the world. You don't have any appointments. So we got time to go play and go do this. And we want to go hiking and we want to go see all this stuff. It is because you don't have a calendar to be able to say, I have stuff that I'm doing. I have appointments in my days. I got things I got to do. We just have that lack of schedule. You said it the best right up front, Matt, which also, and I want to circle back to that before we close up this episode, which is if it's not on your calendar, it's easy to not be accountable to. It's easy to not take ownership of. And I think a lot of us use it as an excuse to be able to say, but I was going to get to it and we didn't. And it's really important. Take ownership of those things on your calendar. And I want to add in, we talk about Parkinson's law all the time in our coaching. And Parkinson's law has two laws to it. The first law is work will expand to the time that allows. And if you look at your calendar and you look at the events that you have, the projects that you have, if it's open-ended and you're just like, during this quarter, I want to create a new buyer's packet, that work will take all quarter. You will fill up the entire quarter dabbling away on building a buyer's packet or whatever you're building out. If you say, I've got 4 days or 4 hours that I'm going to give it in that quarter to rebuild my buyer's packet and clean it all up and get it all done, you'll get it done in the 4 hours. And you all know it. As I'm sitting here saying it, you all go, I could get it done in 4 clearly focused hours. I could probably get that thing cleaned up and looking pretty good. Excellent. Second law, time will be spent inversely proportioned to the importance of the activity. So I'll say it again. Time will be spent inversely proportioned to the importance of the activity, which means if you have open spaces on your calendar, you will fill it with crap. It's just the way it works. It's how we're set up. When you have open spaces on your calendar, that's not all of a sudden where you're like, I'm going to get a great workout in, then I'm going to make some phone calls, then I'm going to go write some notes, then I'm going to go build. It doesn't happen that way. We fill it with fluffy crap that doesn't get us to our goals. And then we wonder why we're stressed out. We feel like we don't have enough time. We feel like we're burnt out. We're not using our time efficiently. And it's that second law that'll bite you. So keep that in mind as we move forward and going closer and closer into 2026.
And it's that second part of the law, Garrett, that emphasizes, I mean, there's books, there's all these things written about, oh, we need to eliminate distractions, as if the distractions are the problem, when in reality, it's the fact that we didn't prioritize what we want to use for traction, to quote Gino Wickman, first. So distraction is just the lack of traction.
Ooh.
So if you don't have things prioritized in a way, if you're not taking that ownership and responsibility for what your calendar looks like, of course distraction is going to creep in because you've allowed it to. It is your fault that that exists. It is my fault that my calendar may not show something that I want to be completing and committing to, right? And then the lack of communication with other people who need to know is the second part that just creates this chaos that then you probably come back and blame everything else. Well, I had to do this. I had to take my kids over here. This came up. No, nothing came up, so to speak. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it does. But family in town for the holidays, you knew that was coming, right? Yeah. And that goes to our entire annual plan. When if you start by looking at the entire calendar and saying, you know what, I know family's coming in town for Thanksgiving, so maybe I should probably block these days off in advance so I can prioritize these other days. And then if I have some overflow or if I need to make adjustments, maybe I can stick some things in there, right? That's all on you. And we have a great process to help you guys do this. If you really want to pick this apart, do our business planning because it is really good. It'll help you set that whole annual calendar and set the weekly routine. But I will just, Garrett, emphasize for people is look at your whole year. Start there and then work your way down to what is going to be the ideal work week and say with specificity, these are the actions that I need to commit to, that I'm going to commit to, that I'm going to follow through on. And then I'm going to track it and understand, because I will say, whenever I do my time audits, I get the best insight into what's going on, and it allows me to make the adjustments so that I can move forward more successfully than I did before.
And number one takeaway, if anybody got it out of this entire episode, is LA-ction is the lack of traction, and we don't want that. That's a bad thing. So if you're finding LA-ction in your business, figure out your calendar, because that will eliminate the lack of traction.
Yeah, we don't.
That's my takeaway for today. That's what I'm gonna. That is what I'm gonna. It's my mantra for today: is eliminate LA-ction in your world.
Is that like a double negative then?
No, lack of traction. It's just eliminate LA-ction by having a functioning calendar. I think we should make that. That's going to be a teachable topic. I have a feeling.
Yeah, that's definitely put it on a T-shirt.
Yeah, LA-ction. Yeah, don't suffer from LA-ction.
I love it. Well, guys, if you haven't yet built a business plan and you want to come join us, go to 10tenths.co. There's a banner at the top. You can click on it. It'll give you all the information about our business planning workshop. And like Garrett said at the front side, if you complete the business plan, if you submit to us the one-page GPS, we take that entire 4-part workshop and boil it down into one page for you, because then your calendar becomes the tool you use to actually move you forward each and every day. But if you submit that and a handful of other things, which includes a calendar actually as a requirement, then you get to join us for our quarterly masterminds, which start in January. So we have the first one happening in January. So if you want to be in that one, you must submit to us this plan, which you will find when you go through our business planning workshop. There, we have a link, we have a form, you fill it out, you send it to us, and it doesn't matter what's on there. We're not going to judge you for your plan. You just need to send it to us. And when you send it to us, we say, great, John submitted this, he's in, right? There's not like, ooh, let me pick apart John's plan. Nope, John's in, Sally's in, Jeff's in, great, let's go. We're going to get everybody together. We're going to work together to keep moving forward. We want to keep you guys focused, and part of this is a little selfish for us too, because we want to keep ourselves moving forward.
Yep.
We love this community, and we all work together to grow together, to move forward together, to advance together. And that's what those quarterly masterminds are going to be about, is advancement, so that we can move forward throughout the year, stay on our path, and stay focused on our calendar and be accountable to what we put on there. So appreciate it. Garrett, great conversation today, man. I'm ready to go into my calendar and start tuning some things up here myself.
I'm ready to
It's
go.
gonna be really good.
T-shirts.
Although tomorrow's Turkey Day, so I'm probably tomorrow I have nothing on my calendar, because the priority is just hang out with family and eat turkey.
No, that's a good priority for tomorrow. And then I think I'm going to use the rest of the weekend to make T-shirts. So you guys just be looking out for those LA-ction T-shirts. That's where it's at.
Comment if you guys are go to YouTube, because this is where there's 2 places where you can provide us with immediate feedback on our podcasts. One is to download our app. Just search for Life at 10 Tenths in your app store. We put all of our podcast episodes, links to them inside our app, and you can comment on those right there. Or go over to YouTube is probably even a better way, because you can watch us. You get to see us laugh and have fun as we do these things. And you can comment right below the episode on, what you're getting out of it and whether you think these T-shirts are a good idea or not a good idea.
I think they're a great idea. I definitely want to know in the comments. So yes, go on YouTube, subscribe, and then go in there and write in the comments if you think we should make these T-shirts, because I don't know, man, that's novelty. No other coaching program out there will talk about LA-ction. And I think
it's time for we need to start producing some merch. I mean, I think you guys would probably enjoy some merch. If you want some merch, we'll make it. And little 10 tenths tees and LA-ctions and
we derailed, as we sometimes can do. We derailed.
Good thing is at the end of the episode. Well, guys, thank you so much. We appreciate you so much. We love you guys. We got a couple weeks left to this year at the time that you're listening to this. Let's crush it together. We'll see you on the next episode. If you got some value out of this, share it with your people, because that's how we grow and build out this incredible community that we're all working to build. So thank you guys so much. We love you, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you, everybody.